Meet Mark Rosaler, a dangerous and notorious British criminal who's no stranger to breaking the law and breaking out of jail. But this time, he's made headlines across Europe after escaping from a high-security Portuguese prison in one of the boldest jailbreaks in recent history. This isn't his first rodeo. In 2019, Rosaler was caught in a bizarre foiled escape attempt where he smothered himself in oil to try and squeeze through the bars of a Lisbon jail. Fast forward to today, and he's done what seemed impossible, successfully breaking free with 4 other inmates, leaving authorities scrambling. But how did he do it? Reports say Rosaler and his crew used a ladder to scale a 20-foot wall before jumping into a getaway car, a black Mercedes driven by accomplices waiting outside. Prison guards didn't even notice they were missing until lunchtime roll call. But who is Mark Rosaler? How did a Cheshire-born career criminal go from a failed UK prison escape to becoming one of Portugal's most wanted fugitives? And most importantly, where is he now? This is the full story of Mark Rosaler's shocking escape. Stay locked in, because this one's insane. Let's get into it. Born in Runcorn, Cheshire, Rosaler grew up surrounded by crime. While details of his early life remain scarce, his criminal record tells a clear story, one of a man who refused to live within the law. Like many who fall into crime, he started small, likely committing thefts, burglaries and fraud before moving on to more serious, violent offenses. His first major arrest came after a string of robberies and home invasions, crimes that would eventually lead to his imprisonment in HMP Kirkham, a Category D open prison in Lancashire. HMP Kirkham was no maximum security facility. It was an open prison, housing inmates who were either near release or considered low risk. However, Rosaler had other plans. In 2015, he made his first attempt at escaping the justice system, vanishing from HMP Kirkham and going on the run for 9 days. While it's unclear where he hid during this time, he was eventually forced to turn himself in, either because of increasing police pressure or lack of resources. This first escape attempt was a warning sign. Rosaler wasn't the type to sit in a cell and serve his time. He had tasted freedom, and his willingness to run would only grow stronger in the years to come. His eventual recapture and return to custody did little to change his trajectory. If anything, it cemented his determination to never remain behind bars for long. What came next would change his life forever. His move to Portugal and the violent crimes that made him an international fugitive. After his failed prison escape in 2015 and time served in the UK, Mark Cameron Rosaler didn't stick around for long. Instead of attempting to reintegrate into society, he fled Britain and resurfaced in Portugal, where he began an even darker chapter of his criminal career. Authorities believe Rosaler used a false identity to enter Portugal, evading law enforcement and settling in the country's underworld. Why Portugal? Like many criminals on the run, Rosaler likely saw Portugal's open borders, relaxed visa controls, and growing black market economy as an opportunity to operate under the radar. But Rosaler wasn't looking to lay low. He immediately re-immersed himself in organized crime. By 2018, he had become deeply involved in violent home invasions and gang-related robberies, targeting victims for large sums of cash and valuables. Rosaler's most notorious crime in Portugal happened in 2018, and it was as violent as it was shocking. In what authorities described as a terrifying burglary, he and his accomplices kidnapped and tortured a man in an attempt to force him to hand over thousands of euros. The details of the attack: the victim was restrained and subjected to hours of physical and psychological torture. Rosaler reportedly attached a battery clamp to the victim's private parts, electrocuting him to force a confession about his money. He demanded large amounts of cash, believing the victim was hiding wealth. The victim, traumatized and seriously injured, eventually managed to report the crime. This extreme level of violence made Rosaler a top priority for Portuguese authorities. Unlike his previous offenses in the UK, this crime wasn't just about theft or escape. It was sheer brutality. He was tracked down, arrested, and sentenced to 9 years in Vale de Judius, one of Portugal's highest security prisons, meant to house the most dangerous offenders. But if authorities thought this was the end of his crime spree, they were wrong. Rosaler refused to accept his fate. Even before he was officially sentenced, he was already plotting his next escape. While awaiting trial in 2019, Rosaler attempted one of the most bizarre prison escapes in modern history, smothering his body in oil in an attempt to squeeze through the bars of his cell in a Lisbon jail. His plan: he coated his entire body in oil, hoping to make himself slippery enough to fit between the narrow metal bars. His plan was to slip through, escape the cell, and somehow navigate his way out of the facility. But guards caught him mid-act, foiling the escape before he could get past the first stage. This outrageous stunt not only failed spectacularly, but it also solidified his reputation as one of Portugal's most dangerous and unpredictable criminals. Authorities tightened security around him, making any future escape attempts seem impossible. At least, that's what they thought. Rosaler may have failed in 2019, but 5 years later, in 2024, he would make headlines again. This time, with a successful prison break that left authorities scrambling. The Great Escape: how Mark Cameron Rosaler vanished from a maximum security prison. For years, Mark Cameron Rosaler had been known as one of Portugal's most dangerous and high-risk inmates. Imprisoned at Vale de Judeus, a fortress-like maximum security prison built to house the country's most violent offenders, Rosaler had tried and failed to escape numerous times. Each attempt made him more of a legend among fellow prisoners and an increasing concern for the authorities. But in September 2024, after years of planning and countless failed escape attempts, he did the unthinkable. He vanished. And he didn't do it alone. A breakout that shook Portugal. It was a day like any other inside Vale de Judeus. Guards went about their routines, inmates followed their schedules, and no one suspected that history was about to be made. Rosaler, along with 4 other inmates, executed a plan so precise and daring that it left authorities baffled, embarrassed, and scrambling for answers. By the time the prison realized they were gone, hours had already passed. This wasn't a chaotic, spur-of-the-moment escape. It was a highly organized operation, suggesting help from both the inside and outside. It had multiple moving parts, all executed with the precision of a military mission. The perfectly timed escape, a timeline of Rosaler's breakout. 6:00 a.m. The final preparations begin. As the prison slowly begins to wake up, Mark Cameron Rosaler and his 4 accomplices are already making their final preparations. Inside their cells, they quietly exchange looks, communicating without words. This is the day. Over the past few weeks, they have strategically collected materials, creating a makeshift rope. They know every guard's routine, the blind spots in the cameras, and most importantly, the exact moment when the prison is most vulnerable. 7:30 a.m. The mysterious ladder arrives. Perhaps the biggest mystery of this escape is how a ladder was smuggled inside Vale de Judeus, a maximum security prison. At this point in the morning, staff shifts are changing, creating a period of slight disorganization. It is believed that corrupt guards or external accomplices somehow placed the ladder in a predetermined drop-off point, hidden from security cameras. It's still unclear how long the ladder had been inside the prison, but one thing is certain: it went unnoticed. 8:15 a.m. Breakfast and distraction. While other prisoners line up for breakfast, Rosaler and his crew remain in their cells, pretending to be resting. Meanwhile, some of their allies within the prison cause minor disturbances, arguments, fake illnesses, anything that momentarily draws the guards' attention from the outer yard. This ensures that security is stretched thin, reducing the likelihood of immediate detection when they make their move. 9:00 a.m. Climbing the 20-foot prison wall. With the guards distracted and their path clear, Rosaler and his team make their way to the outer section of the prison. The 20-foot wall ahead of them is designed to be impenetrable, reinforced with razor wire and watchtowers, yet somehow they climb it without triggering any alarms. Using the smuggled ladder one by one, they begin their ascent. 9:05 a.m. The first man reaches the top. 9:08 a.m. The second prisoner follows. 9:12 a.m. The last of the 5 reaches the top. From here they can see the world beyond the prison walls, the first glimpse of freedom they've had in years. 9:15 a.m. The handmade rope for the final descent. Scaling the wall was one thing, but getting down without breaking bones or raising alarms was another challenge entirely. Rosaler and his team had spent weeks preparing for this. They use a rope made from bed sheets and stolen cloth, carefully lowering themselves down the other side of the wall. One wrong move could mean injury or death, but they descend quickly and silently, executing their plan like seasoned professionals. 9:17 a.m. First man safely lands on the other side. 9:20 a.m. The last prisoner touches the ground. They have done the impossible. They have escaped one of Portugal's most secure prisons. 9:25 a.m. The getaway cars waiting on the other side. The moment Rosaler and his men hit the ground, 2 getaway vehicles come into view, waiting a short distance away. One of these vehicles is a black Mercedes, which would later become a key detail in the investigation. The drivers are already prepared, their engines running, ready to get them out of sight before authorities can react. 9:27 a.m. All 5 fugitives climb into the vehicles. 9:29 a.m. The cars speed away, leaving no trace behind. Within seconds, Rosaler and his team disappear into the Portuguese countryside, leaving behind only confusion and disbelief. 12:00 p.m. Prison guards finally realize they are missing. Perhaps the most embarrassing detail of the escape was how long it took for the guards to realize what had happened. It isn't until lunchtime roll call that someone notices something strange. 5 inmates are unaccounted for. By this point, Rosaler and his crew had already been gone for nearly 3 hours. By the time alarms are raised, roadblocks are set up, and police helicopters are deployed, the fugitives are already miles away. The escape instantly made Rosaler one of the most wanted fugitives in Portugal. Within hours, authorities launched a nationwide manhunt, but the criminals had already vanished. Interpol issued a red notice. Given Rosaler's violent past, international connections, and history of fleeing the law, Interpol was immediately involved, issuing a red notice, the highest level of international fugitive alert. The UK government also increased surveillance at airports and ports, suspecting that Rosaler might try to return to Britain using a fake identity. Portugal's security forces scrambling, the prison service, National Guard, and Portugal's secret intelligence agency were all ordered to track him down, fearing that Rosaler could strike again. But despite all of this, Rosaler remained nowhere to be found. As of today, Mark Rosaler remains at large, and his exact whereabouts are unknown. Authorities have warned the public that he is extremely dangerous, and given his track record of escaping and committing violent crimes, it's clear that he won't go down without a fight. But where is he hiding? Did he flee Portugal? Some investigators believe Rosaler has already escaped Portugal, using his connections in the criminal underworld to secure false documents and flee to another country, possibly Spain, France, or back to the UK. Is he hiding in Portugal? Others believe he never left Portugal, instead choosing to lay low, waiting for the authorities to lose track of his movements before making his next move. Will he strike again? One of the biggest fears is that Rosaler won't just disappear, but instead return to crime, either joining an organized gang or planning another violent robbery. What happens next? The manhunt for Mark Rosaler continues, but his ability to evade capture so far has raised serious concerns about how someone with such a dangerous history managed to escape in the first place. Will he be caught and brought back to prison? Or will he stay hidden, free to commit more crimes. What do you guys think? Comment in the comments below, and also write who I should do a video on next.